Hi, this is Ted. You know that much of the Bible was written around three different disasters. In 721 to 701 BC, the Assyrians came in and invaded, destroyed northern Israel, and 45 cities in Judah, coming down to Jerusalem and surrounding Jerusalem, and almost got in, almost destroyed Israel entirely. But it rebuilt. In 601 to 586 BC, Babylon came and invaded, and this time they destroyed Jerusalem and the temple. Again, Judah rebuilt. In AD 66 through 70, Rome destroyed the Jewish nation entirely, its temple, everything. And it didn't resurface until 1948. So 1900 years later. I think of that. That would be as if in 2025, the United States is destroyed, and almost 2,000 years, so 3950 or something like that, it rebuilds. Do you know how deep that is? It's pretty terrible. Anyway, each went through a similar pattern, each one of these disasters. Evil conquerors were on the rise. They were coming to the city. The cities on the way fell one by one. The writing was on the wall. We're going to be next. False prophets rose and said, "Don't worry, things will be okay. There will be peace." Evil conquerors built a siege around the city, and they tunneled underneath to loosen the walls so they would fall. They built towers, and people within the city starved. There was silence and there was death. Evil conquerors entered the cities, sometimes after days, sometimes after weeks, sometimes after months or years. Death resulted: rape, burning, pillaging, captivity, more death, slavery in foreign lands. There was a national cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is when you believe one thing and reality pushes you into another existence. In other words, the temple, Jeremiah 7:4 talks about this. The temple, it can never be destroyed. It's God's building. We have a Davidic dynasty that will never end. It's the promise of God. Jerusalem is the city of God. These things cannot be destroyed. And yet they were. And yet they fell. And yet these promises seemed to fail. Now, most of the Bible, believe it or not, I believe most of it anyway, was written shortly before, during, or after the destruction. For example, we have those who went before, shortly before. We have prophets saying you're turning away from God. You are misusing each other. You're taking advantage of the poor and the powerless. And for that, God is going to allow this army to come in and destroy. Sometimes the prophets said there is a way out. But sometimes they would say there is no way out. This is going to happen no matter what you do. Some of the prophets would promise, after this though, there will be restoration. But how do you feel if, the United States, you're going to go down. You will go through torment. You will go through disaster. You will be sent into other countries as slaves. But afterwards, God will bless. You're hoping that you are perhaps one who just survives, one of the rare people who do survive. In the New Testament, Jesus said, not one of these stones will stand upon the other after Rome comes in. And 2 Peter and Jude warn people about joining with the freedom fighters. Their way is not the right way. The Bible was written also, much of it was written shortly after a fall. There are national laments and cries of vengeance. We see prophets. Nahum pronounced the fall of Assyria. Assyria, for destroying us, you're going to be destroyed. Obadiah addresses the gloating of Edom. Isaiah prophesied the fall of Babylon. 8 Psalms are called national laments. In Psalm 137, by the rivers of Babylon in captivity, there we sat down and there we wept when we remembered Zion. Happy is the one who seizes your children and dashes them against the rocks. Some of the Bible is also written shortly after the lamenting. Looking back, if I forget you, Psalm 137:5 says, if I forget you, O Jerusalem, may my right arm forget its skill. They didn't have the restoration yet when he was writing this. Josephus, he's not from the scriptures, but Josephus, he kind of demonstrates this because when he's writing, it's 15 years after the fall and the complete destruction of all of Judah and Israel. It's gone. And he writes all about the glory days, the past days, things that took place. Why? Because he doesn't want to forget. He doesn't want Israel to be forgotten. And that's when oral traditions were put into writings, proverbs, laws, and histories, possibly during that time in Babylon, as they sat over there, realizing that we may never. Jeremiah says we're going to be returning, but can we trust Jeremiah? And all these oral traditions that they had passed down, they put into writing. And other writings they gathered together. Why? Because they wanted to make sure that the story of Israel did not die. The book of Revelation was written shortly after the fall of complete destruction of Jerusalem. The Bible is also written during the rebuilding of 2 disasters. Ezra, Nehemiah, Psalms, prophets. I think the point I want to make is a lot of the Bible is written because of a tragedy. One of 3 tragedies, in fact. And when you read the Bible, keep that in mind. And this is Ted. You all have a good day.